So I wanted to talk today about dating etiquette and whether you're single or married, how to garner the princess treatment from your man, whether it's just someone you've met for the first time or it's your husband of 10 or 15 or 20 years. And I was saying this is like a lost art that we're not really educated on necessarily anymore, or a lot of us aren't. I know a lot of or I've heard that it's sort of a tradition that a dad will take his daughter out on a date and show her how she should be treated by a man that she's dating. So, and I think that's a great lesson, but a lot of us didn't get that message, and or at least I didn't. So, or what happens sometimes is we get married and we get into having kids and working and a rut of like just daily household things. So it's really worth revisiting. If you want to be treated like a lady, you have to act like a lady, right? Like no manly man's gonna like pull out the chair for you if hi La, if it seems like you are just so tough and ready to do everything by yourself and just like don't accept assistance. And like Mina says, if you're dressed up, if you're wearing high heels, then it looks like you're communicating to everyone around you, oh, I don't want to get dirty, I want to stay proper, you know, that kind of thing. So so that's what we're going to talk about today, and please jump in if you have any questions. But I have this wonderful little etiquette guide for modern princesses that you can get by subscribing on my website. So I'll go ahead and just link that here in the comments. If you go to the website and just subscribe, then you should get this download. And if not, oh, thank you, Allah. If it doesn't come to you, let me know. But yeah, it should come to your email, so check your spam and everything and make sure that that you're able to receive your free gift. So this is my gift to you: how to garner the princess treatment and how to awaken the fire in your prince. And some just really simple guidelines here that I'll go over with you. And as a lot of you know, I've been talking about my courtship with my husband and how that worked. And this coming weekend is our 2-year anniversary of meeting, and we got married last October. So how do you have a romantic courtship like the ones we've dreamed of? You know, you could say it's traditional in some sense. It's also modern in other ways. So but it does preserve the polarity and the attraction between the masculine and feminine. So I want to talk to you about just some simple guidelines that I came up with to help women remember and recall that princess within them. So the first thing is choose to be picked up at home. Very top thing. So it's really interesting. There's definitely a lot of pushback on this one, and I'm not saying that you have to make this choice, but it is an option, and it can set the date off on the right foot from the very beginning. And you know what? This can also apply to husbands and wives. And if your husband's like, oh, let's go out to dinner, come meet me, you know, does that make you feel, hi Darla, does that make you feel like a princess? Or do you feel like, oh my gosh, you know, it's kind of just like a meeting a work acquaintance or something, you know what I mean? So so this could just as easily apply to your husband as it could a first date. And because I started my courtship with my husband following these rules, he always knows that I expect him to pick me up regardless of whether he's at work or where he is. And it doesn't always work out that way, but at least that expectation is there. It just really starts things off on the right foot. And now certainly I'm not saying that you should have someone come to your house that you're afraid of, you know, possibly being a bad person. And I feel like if you have that, if there's that inkling or possibility in your mind, then like if you've gotten a bad feeling from someone, if you've met them online or it's a blind date or that kind of thing, then I would just say don't go on the date, honestly. So that would be my suggestion. Um, but obviously, you know, use your discretion of what's safe. But a lot of women, young women in particular at least, still live at home. And I feel like if a man has to come to your home and potentially run into your mother or your brother, then he's probably going to be on his best behavior. Or if he is a bad guy and has bad intentions, then maybe best to move along to someone who's not going to have witnesses, right? So that's a little bit of my rationale for that, and certainly I'd be happy to answer any questions at any point. And of course, I go over all of this in great detail in my programs, especially the Find Your King, Get the Ring program. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that one-on-one with a free discovery call. And so I'll just put the link for my schedule here in the comments. If you want to get on a call with me, I would be happy to do that. So that was the first one. The second one is let him come to the door. And, you know, I'm a little bit older than a lot of probably the single ladies in the group. I didn't necessarily realize that it was very common, or at least parts in certain areas or parts of the country, that a man, even if he was coming to your home, he might just sit there and text you to come out to the car. And this was news to me, but apparently that does happen a lot. So just if that happens, my suggestion is to just text him and say, I'm ready, or let him know you're ready, and see if he comes to the door. If he still doesn't and he needs more prodding than that, that may be a signal that it's going to be difficult to coax that chivalrous side of him. So just be forewarned that he really should come to the door and greet you properly. I hope that makes sense. So then the next one is, you know, he comes to the door, or even if you like meet out somewhere, say you really just are firm that your first date, you're meeting someone online, that that you meet them, you know, in a public place. You know, it will be a little bit more difficult to get the chivalrous side from him. You know, that might be something where if like he's already inside, and you just come in and meet him at the table, like say at a coffee shop, then you still have some options, but it's possible you might need to wait till the second date for him. You know, if you feel comfortable, at least he's a safe person, then you could have him come pick you up at the house. But let's say that he's already at the coffee shop. Let's say he's already at the restaurant and you're meeting there. And so then you can't like let him open the door for you. Then what do you do? So one thing I do is that I wait until my husband pulls out the chair for me. So that doesn't work in booths, obviously, but I still want to know where he expects me to sit, and I want like an invitation to sit down, if that's making sense. So, hi, Melrose, and thank you for your comment, Darla. That's exactly what I mean. She says, I was always a little afraid to have guys pick me up. I also like the safety net of being able to leave, but maybe if I didn't have that safety net, I would have chosen more wisely, right? That's definitely a possibility. And, you know, I kind of feel like in general, we want to have a lot higher standards than just like safety, you know what I mean? And like having to protect ourselves. Like we want the standard of like, he's going to protect us. Like he's going to take all of that on his shoulders and be responsible. And one way to do that is to give a little bit of trust. But I understand that's easier said than done. It really depends kind of what part of the country you're in, how old you are, what kind of network you have. Like you should really have friends around. You should have family around who know where you're going and what you're doing. And I advocate that regardless of like the physical safety aspect. Really just being open with your dating life is going to help you make better decisions. If you're kind of reporting back to friends how you're being treated, then it's more likely you're going to have your standards sort of like up to par where they should be, if that makes sense. Yes, as far as like being able to leave, I mean, you could always call a cab or an Uber, right? If you really needed to, or call a friend. That's always an option, especially if you're in a public place, if you're in a restaurant or something, like there's people around. So I think that makes sense. Then when you're ready to leave, so I've had this issue come up where women, you know, of course you want to be polite, of course you want to stay positive and have fun on your date. And it's pretty common that men don't really know like when to end it. Like if they've got a pretty girl sitting across from them and they get to just talk without being interrupted, which of course that's another tip, don't interrupt. Then he might get a little carried away chit-chatting and not know when you're ready to leave. So a polite way to signal that you're ready to leave, like, I mean, you can always say, I'm ready to go home. Like that is just a given, okay? Don't ever feel like, Allah says, yes, it makes a lot of sense. Oh, good. So don't ever feel like you can't end a date. If you really need to, just do it. But this is sort of a tip for like maybe you don't even want to end the date, but you just are done sitting there at the restaurant. Then my tip is to put your purse on the table when you're ready to leave and use that as a signal. And you know, I actually got this from Queen Elizabeth. So that's her signal when she's ready, when she's done with dinner, because no one can leave dinner before she's done. You know, and that's a chivalrous thing. If a guy has taken you out, like he doesn't want to end it and hurry you out of there. He wants to soak up that time with you as long as he can. So it's kind of up to you really to show what you're ready for, what comes next, without controlling or making the decisions, because you still want to let him lead. So yes, I told my husband when I read that about Queen Elizabeth that she would put her purse on the table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. So then everyone in the room knows that dinner's over and they'll be leaving in the next 5 minutes. And I told Derek that, and he's like, oh yeah, if you put your purse on the table, for sure. Like I would never need to say a word, and he would have never even encountered that signal before, but he would know what it meant if I did it. So yeah, so I think that's a great tip as well. And that doesn't mean you have to go home. That could mean you're just ready to walk around, get some fresh air, or change of scenery. So I think that's a great tip. And then even though your purse is on the table, so you still want to let him pay the bill, right? And I loved this story and this time from my courtship with Derek. The first time he met my girls, I was still like not totally sure how to proceed from there. Like they're my kids, you know. I was like, well, should I expect for him to pay for everything for all of us? And he took us out to ice cream, and I kind of just like automatically started to step up to pay. And because I'd been single for quite a few years, no one was paying my kids' ice cream tabs before that. But he immediately gave me a look like when I stepped up, so I backed off, and that was wonderful of him to give me a cute, like, quick nonverbal reminder that he's the man and he's the provider, and he would be insulted if I picked up the tab. So that's just universally true. And if he doesn't feel that way about it, I think I've only had, like, one time I heard the advice to offer to help with the tab and just say, um, can I help when the bill comes? Can I help? Um, so that's an offer, and it's totally up to him whether he takes it or not. I don't think it's necessarily insulting to ask that way, if you can help with the bill. But certainly a gentleman is going to insist that he picks up the bill. And there's definitely been some confusion where women think that offering to pay your share of the bill means that you insist on paying your share of the bill. And no, that's not the case. Let him make that decision and pick up the whole bill if he chooses to. And if he doesn't, then that may not be the kind of man that, that shows a lack of assertiveness to me. And not, I feel like I can only picture one time when that happened to me, and it was a very businesslike. There was no chemistry. That was the only time that I actually did pay my half of the lunch, and it just, I think maybe I was just more in my masculine energy. It was during the day when I was working and I was in a hurry, things like that. I just like slid my credit card out to pick up my half. And I remember the look on the guy's face that he didn't like it, but he also didn't say anything to the contrary, like, no, let me get it. So that, to me, if he doesn't like it and then he does it anyway, visibly I can see that it bothered him, then thanks for the reacts. If I can see that it visibly bothered him and then he did it anyway, like, I feel like that's a little bit of a lack of assertiveness on his part. And I was looking for more of a leader than that, if that makes sense. So that's a bunch of tips. I hope, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. The next one, especially for dating single ladies, is to practice these habits always. So it's really, really tempting when we get out on a kind of a bad date like that, where there's no attraction and you're just not matching up, that it can be very, very tempting to then go back into your masculine and start leading and saying, I'm ready, saying, let's do this next, let's do that next, or whatever you might be saying. The example I can think of, and I apologize, my client that this is referring to, she knows who she is, that she would say, so are you ready to go? And that's kind of like, that's like the masculine coming across, but like in a passive way, like putting your desire on the other person, asking what their desire is. It's really more direct and assertive to say, I'm ready to leave. If you know what I mean. So, but it's on those kind of bad dates that you get real practice into maintaining your princess standards. And so that's where the rubber meets the road, right? When you're kind of stressed and things aren't going the way you want, can you still maintain your poise, and can you still maintain your standards for your own behavior? So that's why I encourage women to still stay in their feminine when there's a date that's not going so well, when the man's not leading, he's not being assertive. Still stay in your feminine and still lean back and practice patience, because that will be very important when you do meet your man and when you do have a beautiful, wonderful marriage that deserves your patience. It deserves your poise and calm demeanor. So try to maintain that at all times, even when the guy is not a match for you. So that's a lot of what I've got on this handy download that I have, if you subscribe on my website, limitlessbyleela.com. And of course, there's tons more of those helpful tips and dating etiquette in my programs for single women and also for married women. But if that interests you, if you need more of that, I would be more than happy to jump on a discovery call with you. And all you have to do is schedule it on the link that's in the comments. It's meetme.so/limitlessbyleela. So thank you all for joining me, and I'm really, really happy to see you in Mina's group, High Value Worthy Woman. If you'd like to come check out my group, Limitless Ladies, as well, I'd be glad to have you there. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.